Hello, everybody. I'm Logan Crawford, and this is the award-winning TV talk show right here on Ebru. Fresh Outlook Super Tuesday. Well, it is history now, and today, you guessed it, is Super Saturday, another round of caucuses and primaries for the contestants. And yes, I say contestants because this primary season feels a little bit more like a game show than a presidential election. So who are the losers and the winners so far? That is a question our panel of experts will ring in on right now. Bam! Let's say hello to Alain Sanders, political science professor at St. Peter's University, Jeanette Hoffman, Republican strategist, and John Boyd, principal from the Boyd Company. Jeanette, I'm going to start by picking on you.
Oh, boy.
What the heck is wrong with Mitt Romney? Mitt Romney, how dare you stand on the sidelines when you could have gotten into this thing and run for president and simply criticize others? That is so unfair. That is so wrong. That so demeans any standing he ever had. What say you?
Two things. So I think Mitt Romney thought that Donald Trump would never be in the position to win the Republican nominee, as he is pretty clearly on his way there right now. I think he thought that people like Jeb Bush, John Kasich, Marco Rubio, somebody would coalesce behind that group of moderate establishment Republicans. And now it looks like Trump is pretty close to winning that nomination, and establishment Republicans are panicking because they're not only looking at about Trump possibly losing to Hillary, which he is in almost every poll, they're looking at the down ballot, the U.S. Senate candidates, the House of Representative candidates, the local candidates that are going to be in a really difficult position if Trump is at the top of the ticket in November. They're going to have to disavow some of his statements. It's going to be really crazy. So I think that's why Mitt, gave that speech to, number one, voice the frustration from establishment Republicans, but also to leave room for him to possibly enter the race.
Okay, I see your opinion, and I understand your opinion, but I think it's about this, Alan. I think this is all about power. That the power elite in the Republican Party cannot control Donald Trump. So you know what? They rather lose to an insider like Hillary Clinton than win with a man who's going to be able to put together a coalition of Republicans and Democrats, blue-collar people, uneducated people, and win the White House. What say you, sir?
Well, of course it's about power, but what it's really about is that the Republican Party hasn't been watching behind its back. It's been the party of no's, it's been the party of nevers, it's been the party of shutdowns. We have a tripartite government in which there are three co-equal branches. If you insist on no, never, and shutdown, you're not going to be able to make that happen because the other branches are going to act. Whichever branch you're blocking, the other branches are going to act. So they fed this to a lot of people, and of course the no's, nevers, and shutdowns have never resulted in what the people who advocated them wanted them to be. So you've got a lot of dissatisfaction, you've got a lot of anger, and many of the voters who were promised no, never, and shutdown are now reacting, and of course they're reacting against the Republican Party, who promised things that couldn't be delivered. And so it's about power, it's about powerlessness, and the Republicans brought it on themselves.
Okay, let's turn to the man who is often called Mitt Romney Jr., John Boyd. Just kidding, John. Well, you kind of look like you could be his son.
He's
you
got
could be
like
one of the
12
Romney
of them,
men,
yeah.
right? Exactly. What do you think of Romney coming out like
worse
this?
things than that over the years. Look, I think the party elites are making a horrible mistake not embracing Trump. He's making the party larger, okay? He's attracting the types of independent voters that are necessary today for the Republican Party to be viable, okay? And it's by virtue of his brashness and boldness and larger-than-life persona that he can help revolutionize the Republican Party in one election cycle. If he were less effective, less powerful of a communicator, I mean, this transformation could take several election cycles. So I think the party's making a big mistake. And this idea that Trump can't pivot to the center, I think, is ridiculous. I think Trump is uniquely qualified to understand what the center wants. You don't have that type of success in the real estate industry for 40 years. You're not able to sell a myriad of products to the American public for 40 years. Have a #1 rated reality show, bringing together the likes of Omarosa and Gary Busey, unless you're uniquely qualified to know what the center wants. I think Hillary, her worst nightmare is facing Donald Trump in the general election.
But
I agree with
the
you,
election
John.
is not the Gong Show. Excuse me.
Right.
I mean, it's really not. I mean, what our friend Donald Trump has shown is that he is a great foul-mouthed circuit circus barker doing the greatest show on earth. That's not what the presidency is all about. The presidency is about compromise. It's about dealing with politicians with whom you differ, not about bullying them. Now, who is he actually bringing together? Who is he bringing together? He's bringing together Hispanics. He's bringing together blacks.
But he's bringing together the biggest number of Hispanics in the Nevada caucuses.
Let's be clear
about
that.
I think police officers, firefighters, unionists.
Let's be clear about that. He has brought people who are Hispanic or black or whoever you want to talk about, who are Republicans or Republican sympathizers. We're not talking about the general population. One of the big errors of the media is to tell you that, so-and-so is attracting so-and-so. They're attracting so-and-so who happen to be Democrats or Democratic leaners. We're not talking about the general population. That's what the general election is all about, the general population. And I would suggest to you that you have to look at that, and I don't think Donald Trump is attracting a general electorate.
Well, I think what John says is true, that he's going to pivot left. He's already saying Planned Parenthood isn't all that bad, that I am willing to compromise on amnesty, that a deal takes two sides and somebody who's willing to negotiate. But we could talk all day. I'm going to let you finish your thought.
His positions are pretty left. If you go back to the past, I mean, he supported Hillary Clinton. I don't doubt that he will pivot more centrist. And he's talked about being flexible, which conservatives like Ted Cruz hate to hear that word about being flexible.
And talk show hosts, Rush and Levin, denounce him daily.
Right. Well, so there's this hashtag on Twitter called Never Trump, and that is from hardcore conservatives who think Donald Trump is not conservative enough. I think the Republican Party is just very divided right now, and the problem with someone like Mitt Romney getting into the race is that the whole reason why Donald Trump is so popular is because people are so sick of establishment politicians like Mitt Romney.
The Pope denounces you, Obama denounces you, Mitt Romney denounces
that
you.
Only helps
that is the holy trinity of denouncements. Nothing could be better for Donald Trump. We could talk about Donald Trump all day. Let's switch to that lady who's not very interesting, who's kind of shrill, who ain't in no ways tired, Hillary Clinton. Alan, you are our resident Democrat, I'm assuming, on the panel.
You see much there. But talking about Hillary, she is conducting a standard campaign that seeks to appeal to a broad mass electorate. She is right on track. She's right on track to win the nomination. Now, everything is always possible. Politics is full of surprises. But if you look at the way she has fashioned her campaign from the beginning, it's to appeal to a broad-based electorate. That seems to be working in the primaries, and she expects it to work in the general election as well. She's carrying on a traditional campaign. And by the way, Donald Trump is also carrying on a traditional campaign too. That's something we should talk about. But he's carrying it on in terms of appealing to the voters, the extremist part of the party. Hillary Clinton is appealing to the extremist part of the party thanks to Bernie Sanders. She's letting him draw that crowd in, but she is staying above the fray, so to speak, so that she can benefit from that. But she's carrying on a general election campaign right now. It is on track, and she expects it to be successful.
Well, it's amazing that Bernie Sanders, this old, hobbled communist from Vermont, has done as well. Look at that man. That man doesn't look like he could be elected dog catcher, as Donald Trump would say. And he's giving Hillary a run for her money.
But he's not.
That's how bad Hillary is.
But he's not communist.
He's not a communist.
Socialist. But no, that is how bad Hillary is. Millennials don't like her. People don't trust her. She is unlikable. I hear her voice and I have to change the channel. And that's not just me. I mean, we've been around Hillary Clinton now for decades. People have already made up their opinion. She doesn't need to campaign because we know who she is, we know who she stands for, and we don't like her.
John, I couldn't believe it on Super Tuesday when she came out with her mock Southern preacher voice again and started saying, I ain't in no ways tired. I was like, oh my God, that's a video that's going to haunt this woman, and she's repeating it again. What is wrong with her?
She is a phony. Millennials in particular want authenticity. That's why they're flocking to Bernie Sanders. She's inauthentic, she's phony. The federales may have other plans for her also. Let's not be sure that she's not going to be in a lot of trouble, I think. But another takeaway, something that I think speaks volumes about Hillary Clinton, when she was asked in a debate recently who her favorite ex-president was. And she gave some convoluted answer about, very PC, phony answer about Abraham Lincoln, okay? I mean, isn't the obvious answer my husband?
Her husband.
Yeah.
Didn't she miss?
Well, did you see what her husband was like and what he was doing in the White House?
But isn't that an opportunity for her to humanize herself?
Right.
But everything you're saying about Hillary Clinton can be applied to Donald Trump and worse. You're talking about pivoting for Donald Trump, and you're saying that Hillary Clinton is saying things that will haunt her in the general election.
But he's
campaign.
authentic.
What?
Well,
No,
right.
he's
Trump
not
is
authentic.
authentic.
No, he's not authentic because he was shown on the last debate to be inauthentic. He's pivoting. He's changing positions. He is saying, "I'm flexible."
But people
That's what the negotiators
No. His positions in the campaign have been no, no, and no. Absolutism, absolutism, absolutism.
Okay,
If you
I've
take
gotta
that
help,
position,
I've
if
gotta-
you take that position and then you say I'm flexible, you are
It's
treading
not
some
that simple,
dangerous
though.
territory.
You got to remember, Trump wrote the art of the deal. How do you get a good deal done?
Right.
You start from here, and you end up with a better deal. That's the approach Trump is, and it resonates. Think about our trade
that's
policies.
not the way he's campaigning. He's campaigning no, no, and no, and then all of a sudden he expects the people who have been promised no, no, and no for 8 years that now I'm flexible. That's why they're reacting against the Republican Party, because they were promised no and they didn't get no. So now you have the candidate, the ultimate no candidate, who is saying no, and you expect them to pivot and say, oh, now we're ready to compromise?
I don't think he's the no
think it works
candidate,
that way.
actually. I think Ted Cruz might be the no candidate, but Donald Trump's like, yeah, I'll work with Putin. Like I think he's more moderate and will be more moderate after the primary is over. And he needs to say certain things. I don't like a lot of the things he's saying, and I really, I would think a presidential candidate would speak more respectfully. But I think people think he's genuine. They think he's telling it like it is. That's why Chris Christie didn't do as well as we thought he would, because Donald Trump is really telling it like it is. He's really straightforward.
All you had to do, and we're going to get off of Donald Trump in just a second, but he is the most fascinating candidate, was look at their acceptance speeches on Super Tuesday. Hillary came out and gave this oratorical address in her shrill voice and sounded like she was in a high school forensics tournament. And Donald Trump came out and just talked like, what we did here was great. We're going to continue winning as we go along. People don't want people to make speeches. They want people to talk, and that's what Donald Trump does right. Alan, let me talk to you about electoral colleges.
Sure.
John Kasich says the path to the nomination for the Republicans is extremely clouded because Cruz won Texas. He expects to win Ohio, and that Donald Trump, even though he is a tour de force, may not have enough electoral votes to become the candidate.
Right. Well, what you're looking at, and you can see some of it from the passion that we're having here on the panel, is that the Republican convention, if there is no clear nominee, that is to say, if the leading candidate, now Trump, doesn't get the required majority of delegates, you're going to have a floor fight like you've never seen because of the passion that Trump elicits and because of the anti-passion, if you want to call it that way, that his opponents have towards him. So this is going to be a disaster for the Republican Party. Any kind of convention that is brokered or that doesn't come with a preordained result is going to be a food fight like you've never seen. There's likely to be demonstrations outside, and the image of the Republican Party, the brand of the Republican Party, will be seriously tarnished, and it is also possible that the party might split in two.
And it's also the party that bears the brunt of the blame because they could have stood with the party's frontrunner. They chose not to. We have 90 seconds left. Let me get John in. What's your prediction as we go ahead?
I think the Trump phenomenon continues. I think after this next wave of primaries, his delegate lead will be so high. And I don't expect there to be a brokered convention. I think the establishment will eventually get behind Trump. You're already starting to see that happen. And I think Trump will be a very, very formidable candidate in the general election.
And what do you think of Chris Christie's silent scream as he stood behind? Not to be too political here, that is the name of a very famous documentary.
Yeah.
Well, his silent scream as he stood behind Donald Trump.
It was not one of his best moments. Remember, Chris Christie is not the guy that likes to stand in the background. So this is a very awkward situation for him. And he's faced a lot of guff at home. A number of newspapers have called on him to resign. But I think this too shall pass. I think, Governor Christie had a press conference and said, I'm here, I'm governing in New Jersey, let's tackle these big issues.
I mean, I think calling for Chris Christie to resign is ridiculous. Don't you think, Alan?
No, it creates a political climate about his ineffectiveness in New Jersey. His poll numbers are rock bottom at the moment in New Jersey, and he comes across as a very opportunistic politician, exactly the kind of politicians that so-called Trump voters hate. So I don't think it does him any good, and I think calling on him to resign creates a climate that simply doesn't serve him very well. And he hasn't served himself very well also.
Well, I see him serving himself up to the job of Attorney General because I don't see him being Vice President because you don't want two loudmouths from the Northeast. So I think Trump will go for more balanced.
Republican National Chairman, I'll throw that one out there. If Trump's the nominee, Christie becomes the RNC chairman.
Okay, we will play back that tape if it happens, or if it doesn't.
If it doesn't, you'll hold me to it.
Jeanette, Alan, John, thank you for your time and your insight, but we have a whole lot more of Fresh Outlook straight ahead. We're going to talk about sex assaults on campus and the rarely talked about falsely accused. More on that after this.